Good morning. My name is Pam Whitmer. I'm a commissioner with the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today as we talk about a very important topic, something that is important to each one of us as individuals from an agency government perspective as well as an industry perspective, and that topic is cybersecurity. October is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and today we kick it off with this important event which, like all cybersecurity efforts statewide and nationwide, is a collaborative effort amongst government agencies, utilities, and industry. I want to thank all of our partners that we work with every day, some of those who are here with us right now, including Bradford Wilkie, Deputy Director and Cybersecurity Advisor for the Mid-Atlantic region with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, Marty Neville, Director of Operations for Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, Marcus Brown, Director of the Pennsylvania Office of Homeland Security, Lieutenant Bill Tucker, Fusion Center Commander with the Pennsylvania State Police, Eric Avakian, Chief Information Security Officer for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Dr. Dwayne Heglins with the South Central Pennsylvania Task Force. We are also fortunate that we are joined today by several of Pennsylvania's major utilities, who are represented here today by Thomas Lord, who is Vice President of Information Services for UGI Utilities Incorporated, Jimmy Sheridan, Vice President of Operations for Pennsylvania American Water, Kevin Long, Digital Forensic Lab Team Manager with Verizon of Pennsylvania, and David Bonenberger, Vice President of Distribution Operations for PPL Electric Utilities. The PUC works vigilantly each and every day with all of these folks, as well as many other partners who are not here, on a holistic approach to security, ensuring not only that our critical infrastructure is physically protected and that we preserve reliability, that our proprietary and personal information is secure as well. Each one of us that is here today understands that we are more than just an employee of an agency or our company, but that we are also all consumers. And we realize the importance of securing sensitive material. Proactive inter-industry training and preparedness are key in that endeavor. This means that all of us need to work together. The Commission recognizes the role of interdependency between all utility sectors, both from a physical and cybersecurity perspective. All utilities are interconnected and must practice good cyber hygiene and risk management tools to help defend their systems against cyber attacks. According to the U.S. Director for National Intelligence, cybersecurity is the #1 worldwide threat. It ranks higher than terrorism, than espionage, than weapons of mass destruction. Let me repeat that. According to the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, cybersecurity is the #1 threat worldwide. As you can see from the chart, last year alone, there were 79,790 security incidents worldwide, according to an annual report that is released by Verizon. And of these, 2,122 were confirmed data breaches. This is up from 64,437 security incidents in 2013, 1,367 of which were confirmed breaches. That represents a 26% increase and a 55% increase in just 1 year. More than 500 million devices are connected to the internet. Cybersecurity attacks happen every day. In fact, they're probably happening right now. Fortunately, in the utility industry, these breaches have not had any major repercussions. And we are all here to try to make sure that it stays that way. A cyber attack could cripple a utility or an agency and have a serious domino effect, a devastating domino effect on consumers, especially as our infrastructure becomes more interconnected. Consider this. All of our homes, our businesses, and our agencies depend upon a steady flow of power to function. Other utilities like water and telecommunication systems are also dependent on that power. Even our roads and our streets need power to function properly. Imagine a busy intersection that did not have functioning traffic lights. Meanwhile, utilities, businesses, and agencies rely just as heavily on telecommunications. If we can't send data or talk, we don't know what is happening literally across the street. We are in the dark. Most of us take clean water for granted, but without those other utilities, access to water is compromised, and not just from a drinking water perspective, but from firefighting, sanitation, and other vital services. The reality is our utility infrastructure plays an essential role in our daily lives. And cybersecurity goes far beyond keeping financial data and other information safe. It's also about ensuring our critical systems are protected against malicious attacks. Our Commission has been on the forefront of cybersecurity initiatives since the early 2000s. We began by reaching out to our utilities to determine their all-hazards approach to security, including cyber. We also reached out to critical partners, many of whom are here today, to share information and to try to break down silos. Under a 2005 rulemaking, we require each one of our utilities to develop and maintain cybersecurity plans to protect their infrastructure and to provide safe, continuous, reliable service. Utilities must submit their annual certifications to the PUC, which are carefully reviewed every year and are kept confidential. We have made many strategies and we have plans in place to work with not only these utilities and other industry sectors on a voluntary basis, but to coordinate with other government agencies and law enforcement as well. In addition, we organized the Mid-Atlantic Cooperative, which is a collaborative of other utility commissions, to share information and develop some best practices on cybersecurity, because we recognize that a large-scale event is likely not to respect geopolitical boundaries. In March of 2014, the Commission finalized a policy creating the Critical Infrastructure Interdependency Working Group to further develop best practices and address the needs of all consumers during significant outages, because reliability is key. Today, the Commission is releasing the second edition of our Cybersecurity Best Practices for Medium and Small Pennsylvania Utilities. We urge all of our utilities to read this and utilize and put into practice some of the information that is contained in this booklet. The importance of good cybersecurity is important every day, but we want to put special emphasis on cybersecurity during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I remind you that we are all here today constantly working together to share information and prepare for cyber incidents, because this issue is not going to go away. We strongly encourage all of our citizens to evaluate both their personal and their professional cybersecurity preparedness. You're about to hear from a handful of others about just how interwoven cybersecurity efforts are across all walks of life, and just how important it is that we continue to work together on this very significant issue. Thank you for all for being here, and with that, I would like to ask Bradford Wilkie to come up to the podium.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmer, and good morning. It's hard not to look at the cyberspace dilemma that we're faced with in cyber attacks and cyber vandals, cyber criminals, cyber adversaries, and picture and paint anything other than a daunting space in front of us. I think they've been well organized for longer than we've been organized, and I think that's changing. I think we've been faced with a lot of good partnership in the last several years, and faced with real opportunities to create a critical mass of efforts and a community of interest really that spans everything that the Commissioner mentioned, which is the regulatory space of utilities all the way to the public-private partnerships that we've generally paid lip service to, but that really have a formation under voluntary assistance programs, law enforcement, redressment, and other types of state and local partnership. So as we celebrate the 12th National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we hear proclamations from governors and state and local leaders, I think we can kind of ignore the pomp and circumstance of the historical perspective and really focus on the partnership that is emerging. We've got a number of different campaigns that have weekly themes around them. Certainly we have great names for our campaigns like Stop, Think, Connect. That's sort of the stop, drop, and roll that we need to apply, or think before you click on the attachment that you receive. Think about your behaviors online and the information that you release. Think about your individual actions as a home user or an end user within a company. So we certainly have sort of the thematic view of things, and I'd like to cover those kind of briefly. In October, the 5th through the 9th, we're going to be looking at the culture of cybersecurity in the workplace. And that really is kind of where this lip service to cybersecurity as a shared responsibility has to sort of start and end. I think all of us have the devices out there in our personal life that extend now into the business place. We certainly extend our behaviors, whether they're good or bad, into the workplace as well. And we'll be focusing on the cybersecurity discipline practices that we need to have as end employees, myself, or as IT security managers, and inviting those conversations. The 12th through the 16th, we'll be looking at getting communities connected and really creating a continuing conversation of cybersecurity. Because I absolutely, up here, I think what is represented the best is not just all the various expertise that you're going to hear from in cybersecurity, but all the varied roles that participate in the risk management of cybersecurity today. So you're going to hear how there's absolutely some place for you as an end user, someone as a home user, someone as a manager, someone as an executive to plug into. It's the non-technical cybersecurity practices that we need to have partners with. It's the very technical, sophisticated reactions that we need to have and planned and organized responses that we need to have as well. And so we're going to be talking about how we connect those communities and we start to operationalize that behavior. And what I mean by that is that we not only plan, as the commissioner said, to have good cybersecurity plans in our daily lives and in business and industry, but we actually exercise and stress those plans and look at how the partnership actually plays out. From the 19th to the 23rd of October, we're going to be focused on the evolving digital life. If you've heard of the Internet of Things, there ought to be cybersecurity that's related to protecting, preparing, responding, recovering to all those things that touch the Internet and our digital life. And so we'll be talking about evolving practices there, and we'll wrap up the month by really talking about what needs to happen and continue to happen, which is the professionalizing of the cybersecurity workforce. If you look at it, we're really hitting this culmination not only of graduate degrees, undergraduate degrees, professional certifications, but also a career path within organizations that may start out with someone in an IT applications development role and end up with them being a chief information security officer at the end of their career, which has not really been a beaten path to this point. There really hasn't been a clearly defined progression from how somebody enters the IT workforce and makes their way into the C-suite of risk management decisions around cybersecurity. I think I want to remind everybody that it's not just National Cybersecurity Awareness Month or a state-level Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's also a chance to have a conversation, plug in very locally to where you are. If that's within your company, you need to find yourself as an end user talking to the IT security managers about the playbooks, not only of policy, but of an incident response and coordination, of best practices that may play out to your personal life. And so find an event that's more instructive to you as an individual, but also probably contributes to the way in which your organization remains resilient. For those who are just purely end users, and I really doubt that there are a lot of just home user end users out there. I think we all play different roles in our cyber and a digital life when it comes to protection. There are resources for you as well. So I would reference things like the Stay Safe Online, our Stop, Think, Connect campaigns, and a lot of ways in which you can take very, very minor steps, whether it's identifying risks to phishing attacks or looking at your protection of your personal information while it's online and sort of knowing your digital footprint. I encourage you to go out and seek those resources. If you're the industry partners at the table, and I think this is a great representation that we have not only some of the governance view of this from the government itself, but also from the private sector. I think we've got a lot of resources, but we've got a lot of learning to do from the private sector as well. And so I'm kind of heartened by the partnership we see in those folks as well. But if you are in industry, the Department of Homeland Security has resources for you if you are in the critical manufacturing, the transportation, the banking and finance space, the purely enterprise IT security space, or you're really rooted in process automation and security, all the way to non-traditional systems. And with that, I just want to remind you that every one of these partners up here stands ready to really continue the conversation about cybersecurity preparedness, risk mitigation, and incident coordination. Seek them out and make that a very tractable, operable conversation, and don't just allow us to pay lip service to you by saying it's just a shared responsibility. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Marty Neville, who's the Deputy Director of Operations at the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency. Marty?
Good morning, everyone. And clearly, you've already started to hear some systemic themes, and they are cooperation, coordination, partnerships, and risk management. Commissioner, I thank you very much on behalf of Director Flynn for the opportunity to be part of this team and the organization that the Commonwealth has in place. While cyber attacks in general are a relatively new phenomena in the history of emergency management as it is sorted over the hundreds of years, the collaborative efforts amongst partners and professionals throughout both the public and private sector certainly are not when we speak to the terms of prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. This press conference clearly represents just a sliver of the ongoing efforts that you've already started to hear about in bringing awareness to cybersecurity, cyber threats to all levels, citizenry, through local, state government, and our private and public partners that are represented here today. Cyber attacks are a threat clearly to our financial and operational security, not to mention the mental and emotional anguish that they present to victims and those who must continuously and tirelessly be prepared and respond to them. No one entity or organization has all the solutions necessary when it comes to cybersecurity. It begins with the local citizen, and it runs through those partners that you see represented here today, federal, local, national, and state partners. And there's always a focus for us on that issue and the term that I started out with, the discussion over collaboration, building upon the strengths that each and every one of those organizations and information that they glean or have within their area of responsibility will result in and has already been demonstrated as a stronger, more cohesive plan and response when effective processes and failures or the adversary gains an advantage in the area of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity should be an ever-evolving area of focus for everyone and an ongoing emphasis to each of us to stay one step ahead of those who wish to either disrupt our business capabilities, our operations, or even just our personal daily routines. The needs for a strong, robust partnership, information sharing, and collaboration at all levels of government and the private sector is necessary for strengthening these areas in preparation and response. PM is very proud to be able to work closely with the agencies represented here today, as well as the numerous other partners that we work with on a daily basis in defending Pennsylvania against those who wish to inflict damage or interrupt our lives and the regular means by which we conduct business. At this time, I'd like to introduce Marcus Brown, who is the Pennsylvania Office of Homeland Security Director.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here to help us continue to raise the awareness of the ongoing cyber threat. The cyber threat posed by terrorists and criminal groups conducting computer network operations against the United States is a top security concern. We all hear on the national news about cyber attacks being orchestrated by foreign governments, the stealing of personal information, or the publicized cases like what occurred at Sony. These attacks are becoming more prevalent. Extremist organizations are encouraging them, and our cyber infrastructure will increasingly be a prime target. Cyber incidents alone or in combination with other events present new and unique challenges to Pennsylvania's intelligence and information sharing process, to law enforcement, and to emergency management organizations. To address these challenges, the Commonwealth remains dedicated to improving the state's preparedness against and response to cyber incidents. Parallel state efforts are focusing on encouraging and developing and leveraging of public and private stakeholders' technological capabilities to prevent or mitigate a cyber incident from seriously impacting the Commonwealth, the analysis and dissemination of timely intelligence and information, early intervention, and a coordinated response are of paramount importance. The Pennsylvania Office of Homeland Security is working with other state departments and agencies to articulate the role and responsibility of state departments and agencies to prepare for significant cyber incidents. 2, to finalize a state cyber incident plan, and to advance public and private cybersecurity coordination. The state organizations that are leading this effort are the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, the Office of Administration, the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, the Pennsylvania State Police, and the Public Utility Commission. The Pennsylvania Office of Homeland Security, in coordination with these agencies and with federal and state stakeholders, is finalizing the Pennsylvania Cybersecurity Annex. This annex initiates a state-level planning and implementation process to ensure that Commonwealth policies and practices and procedures are in place to facilitate the rapid public and private sector coordination necessary to defend against, to mitigate, and respond to consequences of a significant state cyber incident. Despite these efforts, the state cannot secure cyberspace through its own efforts. 80% of the critical infrastructure in the country is privately owned and operated. In recognition of that reality, the Commonwealth strives to work with the private sector, to engage private sector liaisons willing to assist in the development of state cyber operations plans, policies, and procedures, to provide state preparedness and response officials with access to private sector representatives willing to assist with the coordination of response efforts, and to promote voluntary private sector reporting of cyber intelligence and information to the state's Fusion Center, or PASIC, especially during potential or actual significant state cyber incidents. The path ahead is filled with technological opportunities for our state and our nation. With opportunities, though, comes challenges, and that will ensure that the state stays vigilant to address these issues. I thank all of our public and private partners in this effort, and although the challenge is great, the landscape continues to change. The Commonwealth will continue to work to improve our fight against a cybersecurity attack. Thank you, and let me just introduce now Bill Tucker, Lieutenant from the State Police, who is the Director of the Pennsylvania Fusion Center, the PASIC.
Thank you, Marcus.
Thanks, Bill.
Good morning. On behalf of the Pennsylvania State Police and the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center, which is called PASIC, I want to thank the Public Utility Commission and Commissioner Whitmer for inviting me here today on behalf of this event during National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, as it highlights the importance of industry collaboration and information sharing between private and public partners, as well as agency to agency within our government. The Pennsylvania State Police, along with the Pennsylvania Criminal Intelligence Center, emphasizes and embraces the importance of collaboration and preparedness between the agencies represented here today. It is imperative for us to work together for the Commonwealth to protect the private and public sectors and its citizens from cyber-related threats and crimes. Within PASIC, our Critical Infrastructure and Key Resource Unit, CIKR, is always engaged in protection activities and works hand in hand with these agencies on this stage and other agencies, 5,500 partners in all, to better take care of what's going on in the Commonwealth referencing cybersecurity. Throughout 2014 and 15, the CIKR unit improved and expanded the cybersecurity outreach to private and public entities by publishing a monthly cyber report to highlight the threats that can negatively impact CIKR facilities. Additionally, the CIKR unit puts out a monthly report which shares sector-specific information with our critical infrastructure partners in Pennsylvania. The PUC has partnered with PASIC, the Commonwealth's primary fusion center, in order to better serve the public. The partnership between these agencies in the public and private sector and within law enforcement is essential to protecting our communities from criminal acts in addition to domestic and international terrorist attacks. The Pennsylvania State Police is dedicated to the success of our partnerships and will continue to work together to enhance statewide situational awareness through early detection, identification, and intervention through our bulletins, alerts, and reports, which we send out daily, weekly, and monthly. It is our belief in these established relationships with the agencies here today that together we can continue to keep Pennsylvanians safe. We work forward to collaborating with the Public Utility Commission and our partners in cybersecurity. Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Eric Avakian, a friend of mine, Chief Information Security Officer from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Well, thanks, everybody. It's great to be here today, and thank you to the Public Utilities Commission and Commissioner Whitmer for the invitation to be here. On behalf of the Office of Administration, I'm Eric Avakian. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania under the Office of Administration. And our role, really, from a cybersecurity standpoint, is to prevent and defend against cyber attacks and to partner our colleagues up here who are of the utmost importance when it comes to partnerships, building partnerships across the agencies, across organizations, working with others, because cybersecurity is absolutely a shared responsibility. It impacts all of us on a daily basis. From the Office of Administration, our office, from a governance, risk, and compliance standpoint, make sure that all our policies and controls are up to snuff when it comes to safeguarding the Commonwealth against cyber attacks. As a Commonwealth, if you think about the enormous amount of data that we collect, our services that we provide back to our citizens, it's of our responsibility to make sure that all that data is protected and safeguarded against cybersecurity attacks. Social security numbers, medical information, driver's records, financial information is just a small amount of the information that, from a service perspective, the Commonwealth provides back to the citizens. So keeping those assets secure, keeping them protected from the bad guys is our primary obligation. And as a steward of that information, it's important that we do that. But we also work across agencies and jurisdictional boundaries to maintain situational awareness, working with our PASIC, working with our Fusion Center and our other partners from the Department of Homeland Security, National GHS, the FBI, across the board, so that we could all communicate and work together so that if there is a risk happening somewhere, we can all be better protected by having that information so that we can respond quickly to cyber threats, incidents, and malicious events quickly and rapidly before they spread. And with that collaboration comes conducting cyber exercises so that we can practice when these events occur, how do we respond and how do we get better so that we can provide the right amount of education, not just for our own internal staffs, but back to our employees to make sure that our employees are safe from clicking on things that will be posing unsafe. So security awareness training, information sharing with agencies, and again, across our jurisdictional boundaries, which includes local municipalities and our local governments and county governments as well. And this is all really important, and Bradford talked about it earlier as this morphing cyber threat landscape. We have seen, as a CISO perspective, and I've been CISO since 2010 with the Commonwealth, and having been with the Commonwealth since 2005, I've seen the rapid advancement of the cyber threat landscape. You know, we saw just 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago, things that were happening back then to where we've come today. We've seen almost this parabolic shift in the types of threats and the landscape changes that have occurred. You know, back in the day, those types of threats weren't around. And these days, organizations are being targeted because of who they are, what they do, the information they have, and how that could be used, or their intellectual property that could be used or sold on the black market. Cyber attacks, or we're seeing cyber attacks to promote political ends. So you've got the state-sponsored attacks, which are happening. And if you just look at the news reports, you'll see that cybersecurity is almost in the news on a daily basis, where just a few years ago, we didn't really see that activity happening. So this term called cyberspace, it's borderless. You know, attacks can occur from anywhere at any time. We've seen this parabolic shift. And so the whole thought process has to change. And that's why collaboration with our partners, with the public, and across different sectors is so paramount today, so that we could be prepared for the next wave of where cyber attacks takes us, especially with the advent of the Internet of Things, which is on the future horizon and here in many respects. But in the Commonwealth, we take our obligations and responsibilities very seriously. We've implemented best practices across the board throughout our Commonwealth agencies by adopting the NIST cybersecurity framework and the National Governors Association call to action for states, which provides a set of best practices that states can do to protect themselves from cyber attack. And we implement cutting-edge tools all the time so that we can stay one step ahead or many steps ahead of the bad guys with big data analytics, advanced persistent threat protection are just some. And we conduct annual exercises on a regular basis, annual training to make sure that employees know what to do and how to respond if they see something that they might be worried about. So we have this very robust structure. We've got a lot of different enterprise services so that we can safeguard the Commonwealth against attack. But we've got to make sure that posture, our leadership, and our maturity levels continue to progress over time so that we can continue on that path for many years to come. That's why with cybersecurity, you're really, really never done. And so cybersecurity collaboration and sharing is of the utmost importance. So from a Cybersecurity Awareness Month standpoint, it's that time of year where everybody collectively works together to really raise the bar and awareness for cybersecurity, one of the reasons that we're here today. Cybersecurity is everybody's responsibility. It's not just an IT problem, it's a people problem. If we can all work together, collaborate across jurisdictional boundaries so that we can share that information, we're going to be much more secure. And just when we think about individuals, you wouldn't leave your home unlocked, so why would you leave your system unsecured without a password? Those are the types of culture changes that we try to promote and try to start getting people to think about cybersecurity in a way that would really promote good cyber hygiene, as Bradford said earlier, steps that the general public can take so that they can be more secure. So the resources that Bradford talked about are very important because we're all interconnected. And at the end of the day, one person's cybersecurity event could be somebody else's threat as well. So pleasure to be here. And with that being said, I'd like to introduce Dr. Dwayne Hagelins from the South Central PA Task Force, who's going to talk next. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you, Commissioner, for including the South Central Task Force in this. Just by way of quick background, the South Central Task Force is the 8-county emergency management task force here in South Central Pennsylvania. And it's interesting because we have a saying that is shown here today about living in the sandbox. So one of the things that's important to us at the task force is that we work with as many partners as possible for community preparedness. So we have our sandbox here today of all of our partners that are working with us. So just briefly, I'll mention some of the things that the task force does in collaboration with the Public Utility Commission and others. So we have a business, industry, and infrastructure subcommittee that has been actively engaged in guarding the private sector against cyber threats. We sponsor a cybersecurity workshop that brings in subject matter experts from the public and private sectors to speak to utilities and businesses about latest cyber threats and how to protect against them. We do this on a fairly regular basis in a large 8-county area, and I will mention that our business industry group goes outside of our 8 counties when necessary to collaborate. For the last 5 years, we've sponsored an annual business continuity workshop to discuss prevention, response, and recovery from the loss of IT servers. And our conference averages over 100 people in the business community from South Central Pennsylvania. On a daily basis, we provide business communities with situational awareness and updates on the latest cyber threats as well as best practices to employ in the cybersecurity programs. We also offer free facility vulnerability assessments to regional public and private sector organizations that address protective measures geared at improving the cybersecurity programs. We've conducted between 75 and 100 of these assessments over the last 7 years, and it involves a number of volunteer team members. And I think that that's very important, that we use volunteers to do these assessments for local businesses, and a lot of times the majority of these involve U.S. Department of Homeland Security Protective Security Advisor Steve White. Also, the South Central Task Force has been active in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Critical Infrastructure Utilities Working Group. And just by way of an example of something that we heard here this morning, as I was emailing back and forth about this yesterday, on my work computer, I received something telling me from my IT department, telling me to click here for an update. And it looked very realistic from our help desk at our IT department. And needless to say, it was a spamming attack, so if I would have clicked on it. So it's everywhere, it's out there, and we need to be vigilant at all times. So with that being said, I'm going to start by passing off to the private sector with Mr. Thomas Lord of UGI Utilities. Thank you.
Commissioner Whitmer, thank you for the invitation to come today to speak for UGI Utilities. I'd like to thank the Public Service Commission, the Utility Commission, for taking this critical issue, important issue, bringing it to the forefront. I'd like to thank my federal and state colleagues and my colleagues within the private sector for all that we are faced with as an industry in trying to keep our security and our information for our customers safe. UGI believes that a robust and comprehensive cybersecurity program is critical. It is essential as business and industry conduct their daily activities and interact with their customers. Safety, with us being in the gas business, is a core value at UGI. Safety of people, safety of information. That commitment extends to the safety and security of our customer information. We recognize the trust that our 670,000 natural gas and electric customers have placed in us, and we work diligently to protect that information. We've taken a number of steps to keep abreast with the latest cybersecurity measures. As the threat vectors increase, UGI is also responding and increasing what we invest and how we partner with the outside agencies to try to keep in line with and hopefully at some point in time get ahead of those threats that are coming. UGI is currently involved in a multi-year project to update and replace our customer information system. When completed, the state-of-the-art system will improve our customer service capability and will further enhance our information security profile. The new system will provide UGI with improved capabilities for reporting requirements and for coordination with local and state agencies. On behalf of UGI, I'd like to commend Commissioner Whitmer and the Pennsylvania PUC for their cybersecurity efforts, and we look forward to working with the PUC and agencies as things evolve within this space. Please know UGI will continue to take whatever steps necessary to maintain the security and privacy of our customer and company information. Thank you, and I'd like to introduce Jimmy Sheridan, Vice President Operations, Pennsylvania American Water.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Whitmer, for your leadership in this often invisible but never inactive part of our society. So thank you for that. Pennsylvania American Water is the largest water utility in the Commonwealth, providing water and wastewater services to approximately 2.2 million Pennsylvanians. We're a subsidiary of American Water, which is the largest publicly traded water utility in America. And we take, as American Water, we take security matters, especially cybersecurity, very seriously. Because our customers depend on us for safe, reliable water. And we're the only utility up here today where our customers ingest our product. American Water has maintained a dedicated cybersecurity program since 2001, and we've adjusted and enhanced our program over the years based on changes to technology and emerging threats. And we currently have in place a number of preventative and detective controls, as well as a dedicated security team that works around the clock to monitor, prevent, and respond to cyber-related incidents, including monitoring over 10,000 security sensors and 1,700 video cameras every day. We also maintain close relationships with all the agencies here today and with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to better understand new and emerging threats, as well as to help us validate and test our own security controls. Our American Water security experts have also conducted cybersecurity training with Homeland Security to ensure we continually improve safeguards against cyber threats. American Water takes a leadership role in cybersecurity by participating in federal and industry councils and work groups. One example is our participation as a subject matter expert on the American Water Works Association's Process Control System Security Guidance for the water sector, which has established a water sector standard for cybersecurity protections for water systems across the country. Also, American Water's cybersecurity program is consistent with NIST, as was mentioned earlier, the cybersecurity framework of that agency. We appreciate the opportunity to be here today to highlight the importance of this important topic to all these agencies, all these utilities, and all of our customers. I now have the pleasure of handing over to Kevin Long, who is with Verizon and is their Risk Labs Manager.
Morning, it's a privilege to be here. Thank you. Verizon manages a significant amount of critical infrastructure and information. We service millions of customers across the U.S. and elsewhere, from consumers to small and medium business to the largest companies and government entities. You're likely already familiar with our cellular network and Fios services, our central offices and Terramark data centers, and our internet backbone, where over 2/3 of internet traffic traverses a Verizon router at some point. What you might not be aware of is the intelligence and cooperation that takes place behind the scenes. Our networks are monitored for behavior patterns that represent threats to Verizon, our customers, and to the internet itself. The Verizon Cyber Intelligence Center, it pulls together data from Verizon's security and professional services teams, such as the risk team, and collaborates with government and other security organizations to protect our customers and others. The Intel team also produces the Data Breach Investigations Report, or DBIR, which is one of the best regarded studies detailing actual threats to government, business, and individuals. As Commissioner Whitmer mentioned earlier, this year's report analyzed data from 70 government law enforcement and companies around the world and classified over 2,000 confirmed data breaches and over 79,000 security incidents into 9 attack patterns. The DBIR provides industry-specific details, and best of all, it concludes by aligning the highlighted risks with the best security measures you can implement to counter them. Verizon's risk team, the original data source for the DBIR, is comprised of investigators with security expertise, including critical infrastructure protection consulting and digital forensic investigations. I manage Verizon's Risk Labs team, which is based right here in Harrisburg. Good cybersecurity exists in layers of protection, and we're one part of the collaborative security force Verizon has employed to protect our infrastructure and our customers. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dave Bonenberger. He's the Vice President of Distribution Operations for PPL.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank the Public Utility Commission and specifically Commissioner Whitmer for setting up this event. Not only that, but her leadership in the cybersecurity space, in addition to providing safe, reliable electric service for the people of this great Commonwealth. Thank you. So at PPL Electric Utilities, we've always had a robust reliability program to ensure that the power grid is available to customers when they need, and that's the way we've approached the issue of cybersecurity. We have a coordinated defense to protect the bulk electric system and our customers' data and privacy from cyber attacks. Our industry is subject to mandatory enforceable cybersecurity standards. These standards were developed through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, also known as FERC, and the North American Electric Reliability Corporation. We share information, intelligence, and best practices with federal, state, regional, and industry organizations to prevent damage. We have layered defenses. We have regulatory audits. We have external third-party assessments of our cybersecurity programs. And all of us here have a common objective, protecting the nation's critical infrastructure. At PPL Electric Utilities, we are committed to the vigilance and investments necessary to provide the safe and reliable electric service our customers expect and deserve. With that, I'll turn it back to Commissioner Whitmer.
Thank you. I think you can catch a couple of themes out of today's remarks, and that is the importance that all of us place on the issue of cybersecurity and protecting our critical infrastructure. And that perhaps the most important theme that I think that you've heard, and I believe that you have seen clearly demonstrated, is that we all have to work together in order to make this effort worthwhile and to be able to advance the protection that all of the public deserves. So with that, we would be happy to take questions now or to have questions later at your convenience. We're good? All right then. Thank you.